Welcome to Scary Time by Indie Drop-In Network. Each week we feature an episode from the best independent creators. Subscribe for great scary content. If you would like to help support indie creators, check out our Patreon at the bottom of the show notes. Today's episode is from Curly Conspiracies. Don't forget to check out the show notes for links to subscribe and follow on social media. Enjoy the show.
Begin.
Hi everyone, this is Curly Conspiracies. I'm your host this week, Brooke Sasser, and today I'm here with Holly Lauerman.
Hi everyone.
Today we are talking about spirit cooking. This conspiracy started in the 90s when a performance artist, Marina Abramovic, created a piece that has been talked about for decades. The art known as spirit cooking had blood painted on the walls with instructions that were odd to say the least. Many question whether this piece of art is thought-provoking and deep, or is it truly satanic and darker in nature? Marina has also been tied to the elite of Hollywood and political circles, and has been known to invite them over to spirit cooking dinners. Today we are discussing all the evidence of what truly is behind Marina Abramovic's spirit cooking. Alright guys, let's put on our tinfoil hats and get started. We are going to start today with the history of Marina Abramovic. Because if you were to Google spirit cooking, her name is mixed right along with this. Marina is an artist and usually portrays her work in the category of performance arts. She has been an artist for over 40 years, and I didn't realize how many performances and pieces I have seen of hers until researching this conspiracy. She was born in 1946 in Belgrade, which at the time was the capital of Yugoslavia. It is said that she had a rough childhood. Her parents argued they would be violent with each other and towards her, and she mentioned she never felt loved by her parents. Marina describes herself as a black sheep and felt she needed to rebel to create her own space. When she began working in performance art, it was new at the time, and many questioned it as being art in general. Although over time, she has become a world-renowned artist, and many appreciate and come to her shows. Her shows are very intriguing and often are at the expense of her own body and may even cause her pain. Interestingly, she is known as somebody with extraordinary mind control, and neuroscientists have even brought her in to study her and how her mind works. One show that really shocked me and helped me to kind of understand her as a person was one that she did in 1974 called Rhythm Zero. She stood motionless for 6 hours and let the audience do whatever they wanted to her. She had a table set out and a sign that read that there were 72 objects on the table that could be used on her as the audience desired. On the sign, she said that whatever happened during the 6 hours, she took full responsibility for, including her death. On the table, there were things like olive oil, a rose, a camera, feathers, and darker items like a loaded gun, whips, and knives.
So if someone used the loaded gun, it would be all her responsibility, and she was totally fine with this.
Yeah, isn't it crazy?
To put your life in someone else's hands for art? Wow.
Yeah, true dedication, for sure. At first, the audience was modest and just repositioned her and even took pictures of her. But then they became more aggressive, including cutting her clothes, pricking her with the thorns of the rose, and pouring oil on her head, and eventually cutting her. And one participant even licked her blood.
Ew.
Another held the gun to her forehead, but it is said that another participant pushed the gun away. At the end of 6 hours, Marina stood up with tears in her eyes and walked towards the audience. The audience ran from her and did not want to see what they had done. Cracktivist.org says, quote, "For me, this performance art is a powerful demonstration of what happens when people are given the message that it's acceptable to denigrate a human being. Humanity is cruelest when presented with a passive victim, and that's why would-be oppressors first seek to silence their targets, unquote.
This seems like a psychology experiment.
It really does. A lot of her performances have this really deep psychological piece to them. I really do think she is a great artist overall. So she has some very interesting pieces.
I think that takes a lot of guts to be able to do something like that, where you can have so much vulnerability in that position, and you're leaving your life to all of these people and just giving them say so on whatever they want. Wow. I feel like that just takes a lot of courage to be able to do something like that. And I don't know if courage is even the right word. It seems pretty crazy to let other people have control of your life like that, but it's really interesting.
Yeah. And that was just one piece from her, and I think it kind of really defines her kind of performances, that they're very thought-provoking, deep, and many times uncomfortable and dangerous. The infamous art project, though, that started it all was the performance known as Spirit Cooking that Marina performed in 1996 in an Italian gallery. There's a video as well of it, and it's unclear whether it was an exhibit and a video too, but it appears to be both. So not only was there the gallery and video, she published a cookbook to go with it, and I'll share some excerpts from the book too after I explain the video so it makes a little more sense. The video begins with Marina painting on the wall. She is in a bare room with white walls. She is wearing casual black clothes as well as glasses and her hair tied in a bun. There are others in the room, but she is the focus. She's painting words on the wall while an assistant is holding a binder and reminds her of the words. She's not painting with paint though, she's using pig's blood. In her hand, she holds a white bucket and she uses a normal brush as she paints inscriptions on each wall. The first wall says, quote, "Mix fresh breast milk with fresh sperm milk. Drink on earthquake nights," unquote. The second wall says, quote, "With a sharp knife, cut deeply into your middle finger on your left hand and eat the pain," unquote. The next wall says, quote, "Fresh morning urine, sprinkle over nightmare dreams," unquote. The next wall says, quote, "Spin around until you lose consciousness. Try to eat all the questions of the day," unquote. There are wooden figurines about 2 feet high, leaning up against the corner of the wall. She splatters blood against them and along the baseboards. On another wall, there is a video of Marina, or at least I think it is Marina, with a snake slithering all over her head. At one point, the snake's tail appears to come out of her nose, and blood seems to puddle at the corner of her nostril. The lights lower, and someone comes into the room, and they exchange smiles and admire the work. All the while, the cameraman captures this, and a small drop of pig's blood has appeared in the corner of the lens. Then, I'm not sure if it's the same location or close by, but there appears to be a small building structure that's older and almost looks like an old fort almost, with no doors necessarily, just doorways made out of brick. The cameraman walks inside still, with the smudge of blood in the corner of the screen. Inside are bare walls with a sign that says, "Face the wall, press your head against the mineral pillow. Wait until the energy is transmitted." The cameraman walks in from room to room, placing his forehead on the crystals until I'm assuming he feels the energy transmission. Afterwards, the title screen plays and the performance or art piece is over. I think one of the most disturbing parts of it is that it zooms in at one point while she switches to another wall as she's painting, and she pours more blood into the white bucket, and the cameraman zooms in and the blood is literally clumping. It almost looks like there's organs in the blood. It's so thick at points.
Wow, this is a lot to process. So this seems like, I'm not sure whether to take this literally or figuratively, like a lot of her directions and stuff. It almost seems like a metaphor for something else, or is this is literally what she did in order to make this performance art.
Right. And I think that the whole thing, I think that's the, kind of like what you're getting at is the whole conspiracy. It's like, is it one of her art pieces that's more thought-provoking and deep, and she really isn't, it's just something to like kind of trigger you almost? Or is it really, is she really acting out these things and doing these rituals and dark whatnots for a deeper, darker reason? The video is on YouTube, and we will have it linked as well if you would like to go see it for yourself. There's something definitely dark about the film, and a quick scroll down to the comments shows a lot of dislike for the video. Many claim this to be a satanic ritual that we just witnessed, and a lot of comments question whether what we are seeing is pig's blood or if it is the blood of people or, more depressingly, children.
What would make people think that it's children or people? Because she did say it was pig's blood, right? Like, is there a reason why they think otherwise?
So, we will get into that in just a second, why people think. But there are some things that are quite controversial that come out in later years that make people, I think that has brought it up more recently, and made people kind of question what's happening.
Oh, no. I'm not looking forward to that. Oh, my goodness.
So really quick, going back to kind of the cookbook she published with this art piece. So MIT Press talks about the cookbook for a little bit. And to quote them, they say, quote, Abramovic also published a spirit cooking cookbook containing comical, mythical, self-helpy instructions like spit inside your navel until the lake is filled, lie motionless, listen to the heartbeat of a dog. You're not really meant to actually do these things, as Abramovic said at London's Royal Festival Hall last night in launch event for her new memoir, Walk Through the Walls. It's just poetry. Unquote.
But why make it poetry? It's hard to make that. I can see some things being figuratively and you're supposed to have like a deeper meaning behind it, but I'm struggling to find what deeper meaning is there. Like, I don't know where to go with that. Like, it's hard to not have some type of explanation or something unless you're supposed to just make it up. But of course, from what I'm understanding now, that we're supposed to make it up, but it seems like it's taking a darker turn.
Right? And I feel like in her other performances, it seems so, not clear, but more clear what that deeper message could be, and you can kind of infer more. But this one I'm very lost on what that is, so.
Yeah, I don't even have a clue on what that could even mean.
Yeah. One source, InfoWars, mentions that spirit cooking may refer to a sacrament in the religion of Thelema, or Thelma, and involves an occult performance involving menstrual blood, breast milk, urine, sperm, and more to make a painting. Sound familiar? Also, I'm not sure where they got this quote from her, but InfoWars says that Marina believes that if the ritual is performed in a gallery, it's just art. But if it's performed in private, it's a spiritual ceremony. And I just want you to hold on to that piece of information for later.
Yeah, that does not make me feel any better that you would... Location does not change what you're doing.
I agree. Very fishy. Before we go on, though, here is a short promo from Michelle and Tom from Apocalypse in Review. If you like apocalypse movies, you're going to love this podcast.
Welcome.
Hey everyone, I'm Michelle.
And I'm Tom. And we are Apocalypse in Review.
We're a comedic podcast that rates and reviews movies in the apocalypse genre.
We run a synopsis, play some games, and also have commentary from us watching the movie.
Dun dun dun.
He did.
If you enjoy movies and lighthearted podcasts, come check us out on your favorite podcast platform.
Thanks for listening.
Now back to the show. So, of course, there was some controversy at the time of the performance and cookbook being released, but this whole thing started to blow up again more recently in 2016. In 2016, WikiLeaks released some emails, and they were very interesting. The emails were from Marina to a man named Tony Podesta. Now, Tony Podesta has a brother named John Podesta, and you may know John as the campaign chairman of Hillary Clinton's run for presidency. These emails were released right before the election took place. The email was from Marina to Tony, and Marina was inviting Tony to her New York apartment for a spirit cooking dinner. So, of course, the news went crazy, and one source, the MIT Press, states that one headline at the time said, quote, Clinton's campaign manager participates in a cult ritual with bizarre Balkan Satanists, unquote.
So these emails came out of her inviting him to a spirit cooking ritual, kind of like the one you mentioned previously with the pig's blood, quote unquote, and like the painting and the recipe, weird recipe kind of thing, like something similar to that?
Yeah. So, no one knows, of course, what exactly. She's had some quotes, and we'll talk about that, about what she meant in this, what she meant by spirit cooking in the email. But yeah. And I just want to let you know that, and we'll go into this too in just a little bit, but just a heads up that I'm pretty sure, now I'm not 100% sure, but those emails that were being released at the same time that those Pizzagate emails were being released. So all of this is, I'm just going to warn you, kind of like tied in there.
No.
So keep that in your mind too.
Oh my goodness, that they're all possibly tied together.
Yeah. So keep that in your mind, too,
okay,
as we keep going. Okay. So not just Tony, though. Another source mentions that this dinner she was holding was supposed to be a small dinner for her largest donors. And according to another mag, quote, a night with Marina during which she will teach you how to cook a series of traditional soups. Unquote.
Traditional soups? That's what she's been doing? Like, with all of these other things she's done, I have a hard time believing she went from like, wow, like super controversial to soups. Like, is she known for actual cooking or just like art cooking?
Good question. I do not know if she is a good cook or is known for cooking. I'm sure she make some good dishes. I don't know. But do all of her most high-paying donors come to her house to see her cook? I'm not really sure. So,
especially when that doesn't seem like that's something she's known for.
Yeah.
Traditional cooking. That's fishy.
Yep. And the largest donors, of course, being rumored to be the elite of Hollywood and political rings. Now, of course, Marina denies this and says it was totally taken out of context and that she is not a Satanist and not doing anything weird at those spirit cooking dinners.
I love how she's saying she's not doing anything weird, but I think she's past that point.
Yeah.
I think we're very past the weird train.
Yeah. Since then, Hollywood and rumors of satanic rituals and what could be happening to gain fame, power, and wealth with the elite in our world has been dominating the news and social media outlets. Especially in this year, 2020, you hear so much about adrenochrome, child trafficking, especially in the recent news with Wayfair, Etsy, Amazon, Jeffrey Epstein, Pizzagate, and more. I won't get into it all because each one deserves their own episode and time properly researched, but I really feel like so much is coming to light in 2020, and it's truly the year of conspiracies and things being brought to the surface.
It's like the year of truth.
It is. That's so true. So even in 2020, Marina is brought into this again with thoughts that she is tied into this because it's thought she may be holding these satanic rituals for the elite. Now, I'm not saying this is true or not true, but I will tell you something interesting in my research. When I first watched the video and saw the comments on YouTube, I noticed people saying videos and I'm not sure what specifically was in the videos, but that things were being taken down and things were being blocked. And as I was reading article after article that mentions the news in 2016, all of them painted Marina in a good light. And I'm not saying that it's bad, but it's interesting that there aren't really many sources claiming all of this to be a conspiracy or to be true. And the sources I did find that claimed she was evil or satanic and spirit cooking was an actual ritual were independent conspiracists posting on Instagram or Reddit, or there's one credible source, but like it was just odd that the articles at the time that I were reading were really not grasping onto this like conspiracy. It seems like everybody was painting Marina very positively, which like I said, I do really appreciate her art and she's done some really great things. So, maybe the media was just kind of not really wanting to take it there, or maybe there wasn't enough evidence at the time. But I don't know. All of this seems pretty dark. It seems like people would be questioning all of this craziness. I don't know.
It's weird that majority of them are all painting her in a positive light when all of this stuff has possibly come out about her. And then like with the WikiLeaks emails and then just the video of the performance itself, I'm surprised doesn't like spark a lot more articles being like talked about her possible rituals. And I feel like that's a lot of ties to important political people. And it kind of makes me think that this is kind of getting covered up and they're pushing out all these positive news articles to kind of cover up the negative parts of it.
I agree. Something feels off and like you said, like covered up about this. Like something's weird. There was one popular source, though, that did talk about this side of the story. Holly and I once watched this conspiracy video called Out of the Shadows on YouTube, and it is very popular at the moment. And at one point of the documentary, there was a mention of a journalist named Liz Crokin, who started reporting on Pizzagate and got a ton of flack for it. If you don't know what Pizzagate is, it's about a pizza place in DC called Comet Ping Pong after a man shot into the restaurant. The man's name was Edgar Welch, and afterwards people became curious about why he would do this. And then emails were found on Anthony Weiner's computer, and they were leaked, and conspiracies started forming from there. Want to know who was involved in those emails again? John Podesta and Hillary. Now, in the emails, Liz Crokin mentions that they were littered with code words that possibly involved child trafficking. Like I mentioned earlier, the Pizzagate conspiracy is huge and deserves its own episode, but the emails in Comet Pizza were connected to believe that child trafficking was somewhat being funneled through Comet Pizza with the higher elites. Now, there's so much to unpack here, but I do think it's interesting that Marina is linked in the same emails that were somewhat linked to the Pizzagate emails. To make this even crazier, in another email that was released, it says, quote, "I will be sacrificing a chicken in the backyard to Moloch," unquote. And Moloch is a Canaanite god apparently associated with child sacrifice. So Liz Crokin raises some really good points about why these are being said. And then after all of this was said in the emails and obviously something fishy, it was covered up and everyone said it was fake news. So in the end, this was one of the few sources that linked Marina to this elite child trafficking theories and that these spirit cooking dinners were truly sacrificing children or doing these really dark, messed up things.
Wow. So I'm just surprised that there's an actual link like to her, because I feel like some of these conspiracies, there's a lot of weird, fishy things, but like It doesn't always have a link. And for her to say that she was sacrificing a chicken to this god no, she didn't say that.
So I don't know if it was her. Like it was one of them. Like all these people talking, it's somebody in this email chain. I don't know which one it was, but it was one of them.
So in that group of people, one of them said something about sacrificing a chicken to this god that has a link to child sacrifice.
Yeah, and that in itself is super weird, and that you would email that to someone. Like, I mean, Holly can tell you, I am so paranoid when it comes to emails. It takes me like 20 minutes to like compose an email and like proofread it 40 million times. So like that someone would just like very haphazardly email that they're sacrificing a chicken. Like there's so many red flags there. And then, I mean, we've talked about this too on one of our Patreon episodes a little bit when we talked about that children's book. And I just feel like the other emails and the things, like when we talked about the code words, like all of it so messed up and so obvious, it seems.
It's really weird that they would email it, because that seems very like there's proof. It's right there. So it almost seems like they've been doing this for so long that they haven't gotten caught, and that they just continue to do it. Like, and it almost seems nonchalant.
Yeah.
And that's what bugs me the most. Like that, I think that's what concerns me the most, is that all of these emails are coming out so nonchalantly that it seems like it's not a big deal when it is a huge deal if that's what they're really talking about.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great way to put it. They do seem very nonchalant about it and totally messed up if that it really is what's happening.
You would think if somebody was going to do something so awful and you know it's wrong and all of this stuff and very secretive, you would do it over a phone call, or you would do it over something else besides email. It's all just so weird to me.
Yeah, I agree. And it gets a little bit weirder. So there's another part of the documentary that mentions Marina and Lady Gaga. And there's lots of conspiracies about Lady Gaga being part of the Illuminati and whatnot, and that she's a Satanist, and especially when she first got famous and she did a lot of outrageous things for the time, like wearing a dress of meat, which caused a ton of conversation about her.
Oh, I remember that. Oh my goodness. She did that, and it was just all over for the conspiracy world. Like, all the conspiracists were, like, going crazy with all the different conspiracy theories around Lady Gaga.
Definitely. And they show bits of an interview here in the documentary where Lady Gaga and Marina are talking. And Lady Gaga apparently went to Marina's house and asked if Marina could teach her. Teach her what? I don't know. But they went to the woods, and Marina says she created a workshop and describes her as a good student, and Lady Gaga describes Marina as limitless. This documentary also mentions Marina's other events and art that she has held over the years, where they have a cake that looks like they're eating human meat and depict cannibalism. And do what you want with this information, but I thought it was really very interesting tidbits that were included about Marina.
I feel like I've seen one of those photos with Lady Gaga at, I didn't know it was spirit cooking, but it does look very like cannibalistic, but I remember reading something about that it was art, but I didn't make the connection that it was spirit cooking.
So, and I think the pictures, I think I know what you're mentioning. I don't know if like that is necessarily like a spirit cooking event, but there really was, like, after just grazing the surface of Lady Gaga and Marina, it seems like they have a lot of history, and a lot of weird history at that. And like I said, I don't know if it's like artwork or, you know, another kind of interesting piece, but yeah, if you ever do stumble across the pictures of them eating that very odd cake at, I don't know what event, but very odd, it looks very dark and horror movie-ish.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's what, like, as soon as you said that, that's what came to my mind immediately. It's also weird because I don't know what Lady Gaga would want to learn from Marina unless it is this type of art that she's, you know, very well known for. And of course, some of it is not as dark as others, but it is kind of interesting that she is learning something from her. And I guess in this conspiracy, they're kind of like insinuating the fact that she's learning more of like the darker, like art, like spirit cooking, possibly, that she's doing.
Very odd. I don't know. I would like to know what she's learning too, but very interesting.
Yeah, especially when it comes to so many of these conspiracies seem to link with a lot of these high political leaders. And then with the emails coming out, and then it's just a lot of really suspicious behavior going on.
Oh yeah, for sure. The documentary Out of the Shadows has over 18 million views on YouTube, and I totally recommend watching it. It goes into way more than just how Marina was possibly involved in Pizzagate and satanic rituals, but it goes into a lot of how Hollywood and our news sources aren't always truthful, and how they show us what they want us to see. Sometimes they even try to slowly desensitize us to topics such as child trafficking, Satanism, and other things. Now, after researching and watching and reading, I will say that it's interesting to go back and think about how Marina was primarily painted in such a bright light, especially in 2016, even though her art was so dark for the time. Not only that, but spirit cooking isn't the only time she's used bloody and dark satanic themes or imagery. I'm not really sure what to think, but Holly, what do you think the true motives behind spirit cooking are?
This is a tough one. The problem is I'm not a very artistic person. I don't like going to art museums, really. Like, that's just not something... I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of talent that goes into it, and it's pretty to look at, but I don't really go through and, I guess, find the deeper meaning behind it all unless I feel like it's kind of, like, obvious. So to think about spirit cooking in this type of, like, very abstract form... It's hard for me to understand an art form, especially when it is so dark and it has a lot of like dark themes and going into like the pig's blood and going into like different bodily fluids and all of this stuff is just not something that I've ever come across in like any type of art movement. So to try and understand it myself, maybe it really is innocent and it's just supposed to present like a darker theme to it, just like how horror movies, like we watch all these horror movies and there's blood and gore and all that stuff, and I just don't really get into that stuff. But maybe it's kind of like how everybody's obsessed with Halloween and we love to like be scared and do all that, and maybe this is all just innocent, and that is just kind of what she's doing is pretty much like shock value. It is weird for me to think, though, that these emails are connected and that there's politicians connected to it and wanting their own spiritual cooking small group thing. Just seems really odd to me, and I can't figure out why. I don't know. I mean, unless you're just really into art. I don't feel like there's enough evidence, I think, for me. I mean, I get the weird emails. Could they be construed in a way that everybody's like picking them apart? Maybe. It is strange to sacrifice a chicken for art or sacrifice a pig for art, but technically still legal and not totally immoral. So... I mean, I love animals, so I feel like, oh, that hurts my heart a little bit to like think about that. I just don't know if I have like enough evidence to be like fully on board with this conspiracy, but it is weird about the connections, I think, between a couple of things. And that is a little suspicious to me, but I don't know if I can fully say, oh yes, spirit cooking is a thing with sacrifice of children and all of that involved just yet. Maybe if more evidence comes out. I mean, there is a lot of weird, like, suspicious behavior. That is definitely something weird is going on, but I don't know if it's fully children sacrifice and all of that. So I think that's where I'm gonna stand for this one.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you mostly. I mean, if it was just, I think, the artwork, I think I could get behind it. Because, I mean, I do really kind of like the horror movies and all the scary stuff. And so I could kind of like, if she had just done the artwork, I think I could kind of get behind that, and with her other pieces of art and things like that. I think what got me though is the emails. I mean, it's so odd, and with all the other information coming out about Pizzagate and all the other stuff, I mean, it's just really weird that her name is tied in there to that, which is super fishy. And I think the other part about it is, to me, if the InfoWars quote is correct from earlier, and her whole quote about is if it's performed in a gallery, it doesn't mean anything. And then if it's performed in private, it's actually a ceremony. Like, if she really did say that, I don't know if she did, but if she did, that's super odd, because like in the email with that, proves that she is doing it. It was a private event, like a private thing held in their home, and which would mean that it is a ceremony, in her own words. So something feels really weird about it. And like you said, I feel like there's like just not enough evidence there, like to like truly prove that this conspiracy is happening or that it's real. But it's so weird.
You bring up a lot of good points, especially with her saying that quote about an art museum versus like doing it elsewhere, that an art, like if you did it in an art museum, it's art. That quote really is just so wrong and disturbing in itself. And then to think that she did go and actually do a private like spirit cooking dinner party, like, and she knows that, like, if she said that quote, she would know that that is a ceremony, like, because she, that's not in a museum or anything, that she just went and contradicted herself completely. And that really...
I mean, apparently they're just cooking traditional soups. I don't know.
Quote, you see my air quotes, traditional soups.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how many people can get behind that train of thought, but who knows? I think I'm truly not sure what the true motives behind spirit cooking are, and I'll be interested to know if there is more evidence that come out in recent times. Like you said, 2020, the year of truth. So maybe we will know the truth soon. But definitely let us know what you guys think about all of this, and we will see you next Thursday. Thank you guys for tuning in today and diving into this mystery with us. Go check out our website if you want to see our sources, pictures, and other information from this episode at curlyconspiracies.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and search for the handle Curly Conspiracies. This podcast is brought to you by May Gua Ren Productions, Brooke Sasser as a scriptwriter, host, and researcher, Holly Lauerman as a scriptwriter, host, and researcher, Chris Sasser Photography and Graphic Design, Roundtable Audio Productions. The theme music is composed by Victor Wayne Music Production and Invito Market.
Thanks again for listening to Scary Time by Indie Drop-In Network. Check out all of Indie Drop-In shows at indiedropin.com. If you would like your show featured, reach out to us at Indie Drop-In on all social media or go to indiedropin.com.